Well, just like summary, this was like deserted land. They put a water system in, put strategic tree planting in, and essentially changed a 500-acre area, and little farm lands and communities sprung up around this regenerative neighborhood, based on very functional and practical water, food, and energy systems. So it's like the way that this product of a regenerative neighborhood can change the world. I was super inspired by it this morning and just wanted to share that with you guys.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Even just the people telling the story of regeneration and showing what an impact it can have just by building water systems and transforming the landscape. Like, oof, we need more projects out there like documenting what they're doing, because they're doing awesome things, but a lot of it is not getting captured.
Right.
Definitely.
And this, right, I'm gonna add this to like our cheat sheet, right, of like mega wins. Where is that? Where did I write that?
Big tips. I made it really big and I put it on the top.
Right, it's already there. Social media marketing, right? Paid,
Yeah.
organic, telling the journey, like storytelling.
Yeah.
Storytelling is like one of the things that we find time and time again that regenerative neighborhoods are in dire need of. They're doing awesome stuff and nobody knows except the people there breaking their backs to do the work, which is challenging and definitely deserves a lot of attention. So, all right, you guys hit it. I'm excited.
Yeah, just so everybody can reference this, we already have collection of these truths, I guess, that we found along the way, and we're just noting them here so you can reference them as we go. Okay, so Lila is our facilitator for half of the session. She's going to lead the first icebreaker. So hit it, Lila.
Cool. Maybe let me introduce myself as well, because I wasn't able to join last time. So my name is Lila. I'm Brazilian. I grew up in the US and now I've been living in Germany for the last 6 years. I'm currently in Brazil. That's why I look a little bit nicer with a little bit of a tan. And I'm really, really excited to be joining this. And I reached out to the team. I knocked on their door. I said, I love what you're doing. How can I help? I have 3 hours in my week. I've just become an entrepreneur this year, but I love what you guys are doing and I want to jump in and help. And the big reason about it is because I think that I work in sustainability. So I work with large corporate companies and really thinking about how can they reduce their impact? How can we change their business models? How can we really kind of move forward? And the more and more I study, I realize that it all comes back to community. It all comes back to regeneration, that sustainability isn't enough. And I wanted to find a way that I could exemplify this to people in the work that I'm doing, with the experience I have, and also see how I can put that into practice today where I am and building up into the future that I want. So I definitely want to live in community. That's already kind of a plan. And right now I want to learn as much as I can. I want to help with the experience I have. And that's why I'm joining here today and why I convinced the team to let me put in a session on skills and personal development, because that's a little bit of my background. So I work in trying to make sure that people understand what skills do they need to work on complex issues. And I think it's an important question. And my first one then goes to you to kind of start this icebreaker and get us into the discussion. I know that you've already joined the session last time. You know a little bit about regenerative neighborhoods. You might know a lot about it, and you've jumped into specific sectors. But maybe for a quick icebreaker session, if you jump into where Nicole's currently showing, and I think, Nicole, you can bring everybody there as well.
Yes.
Awesome. So just put in one of those little sticky notes, what is one skill you believe is essential to being able to consult regenerative neighborhoods? So this could be a skill that you already have, that you're like, oh, that's why I'm here, because I think I'm really good at this and that's what I want to bring to it. Or it can be a skill that you're still developing and you want to build it out. So you can just double tap on the sticky note and then it'll let you write on it. So I'll give everybody a minute or two to do that. All right, I see some things popping up. Cool. I'm gonna start reading some of them out and sharing what I think and where we go from there. But I love that somebody said listening, because I fully agree with that. I think the first thing when it comes to a project like we just saw in India is listening not only to the people that are there, but the landscape as well. So what is it that's missing before we come in with all of our solutions and all of our knowledge? The first thing that we need to do is really listen to people. And I think then I really like that that links really well with the yellow and the green, which is understanding the important questions to ask and ask guiding questions. So I like how those two complement themselves as well. So you have to understand the questions to ask, but it's important that you guide those questions very much in a kind of progressive manner, thinking about the storytelling as well. So I love how those connect a little bit. Let me see, there's one in the pink here, knowing where to look for examples and tools that help answer those questions. Exactly. And I love how this is like connecting with the steps that Nicole is going to show you in a bit, because you need to go through that process of listening, of understanding, then knowing where to go. Let me see where the other ones have put in some things here. Listing and categorizing moving pieces in an organized system. I really like that. And I think that's where a lot of projects tend to go off, because people are really passionate. They come in, but they forget the actual administration, project management, systems complexity in between that, and how you actually make something work. And Nicole, I think that's yours, the last one. The ability to sense what a project really needs versus imposing what you think they need. I think that's half of what our culture has done in the last couple of centuries. So we definitely need to go back and listen to the people that have been part of the land, the 8% of the population that's taking care of the large part of the biodiversity on this planet. So feel free to continue writing on there, and happy if anybody wants to come off and share anything that's connected with them or anything that they just want to share. Cool. All right, well, what I'll do now, since I wasn't here last time, I'll ask Nicole to jump into the recap of last session, and then I'll come back and we'll jump into a breakout.
Right on. So just to go over what we covered in the last session, at the beginning of every session, we'll briefly cover everything just to rehash. So last time we gave an introduction to regenerative neighborhoods and the regenerative neighborhood movement, the regenerative movement as a global movement, and provided some of the frameworks for how to contextualize that. We covered the case study Ikumal, went over what we thought made it successful as a case study of a regenerative community project. And we also then went deeper into what we thought makes a regenerative neighborhood successful and how to measure that success. We covered the design lenses and common terms, and who remembers the two approaches that we covered at the very end? Without looking at that part of the mural, can anybody share which of the two approaches? There was one on the left that we covered, and then one on the right. Both really valid approaches, but who here just wants to drop? Andoni raised his hand.
You're on mute.
It's either community-led or taken by the founder, by a single founder. That's like the two approaches.
Totally correct. Community-led or developer-led, like by a founder or one or two people, not a founding team. And we gave you the glossary to kind of go over. So in today's session, we're going to dive into your goals as an agent. We're going to touch on the phases of consulting that's part of our process that relate to projects and how we consult projects. I think maybe Andoni, you have background noise again. I can't see it, but I hear it. And also break down the steps of community creation that are part of the Community Alchemy process. We are going to actually, we are not going to do the objective of consulting. We're going to do the community creation phases, and we'll go into that. We'll look at a case study for a community that we had a residency at and that we consulted for, and then we will dive into basically creating your personal development plan for the duration of this course with the help of Lila. So we are going to do a breakout right now, exploring your goals as an agent, something really tangible that you can do by the end of this course. So Lila's going to give an intro to that session, and then we're going to go into breakouts.
Perfect. So I am definitely a person that likes to plan a little bit further ahead. So why am I here? What's my intention? What am I trying to achieve? And what we wanted is to learn a little bit from you, because that will also help us structure this course as we're going. We're very agile in our way of doing things. So we want to make sure that we give you what you're looking for. So here, what we did is asking you for your goals as an agent. So some people don't like the idea of goals. You can think about it as intention. You can think about it as your plans, whatever kind of wording that you prefer. But what are you trying to get out of this course as a whole? What are you trying to kind of achieve and then to be able to implement? So you can think about that, but what we really want to do is to put you in breakout rooms, because you normally tend to learn from each other and say, oh, I want that too, but I hadn't put it into words. So we're going to put you in, Nicole's going to kindly put you in duos. So, and we're going to give you about 10 minutes to chat about it, and also to write a couple of words down, so then we can come back and hear from you, some popcorn sharing on what your goals, intentions, and guidance is. So just as a quick one before Nicole sends you out. So my big goal is to consult a neighborhood either in Brazil or in Europe in this year. So start doing that in whatever capacity that I can. And later on, we're going to talk a little bit more about your personal development plan, where we'll get a little bit more specific on how I can achieve that goal and how you can do that as well. So don't feel like you have to know every single step, but maybe have a bigger, wider intention or goal plan. Any questions on that? Beautiful. How are you doing with the breakout rooms, Nicole?
Good. Just wanted to note you guys will have about 10 minutes, right, to just jam on your goals together, talk it out, have a conversation, and go deep. And we'll see you in 10 minutes.
We're back.
Awesome. Welcome
Guess who's back?
I see that we have more goals than we have people, which is great.
We're ambitious.
Yes. So what I'll do is that we're a small team, so maybe I'll just ask you all to have maybe a couple sentences on what your goal is and maybe what your experience in that breakout. Michael, you're the first one on my screen, so I'll choose you and then you can pop it over to someone.
Michael, I wrote your card down here in the bottom right from what I heard from you.
I'm flattered. Thank you for choosing me first. Where are you, bottom right? Are you visiting architect? All right, let's read what Oscar wrote for me, because that's awesome to get a scribe. Can you move your cursor? Okay, there we go. Create a connected space for the adults of Port Hope, Canada. Intimacy and social environment. Yeah, so I've landed in a small town, Canada, on Lake Ontario. It's called Port Hope. And there's a bud for emerging vibrancy in the adult social sphere, in like the young adult, because it's moving from a very old populace to an influx of young family type of populace. And I'm so pumped about tapping into this hub that wants to create a transformative artistic, social event space tied in with holistic wellness, and has also like breakout rooms to regenerative farm and retreat space and nature and all this sort of thing. So we're tying into this place, my wife and I. So my immediate goal is to guide this place to be an inspiring social environment and create emerging intimacy in the social sphere that inspires personal empowerment and growth and vocational development and community in the sense of expanding possibility in social space rather than one-off, one-night stand type of event experiences.
Love that.
Nice.
I love that.
Beautifully put.
I shared with Michael after he shared this space that the universe has brought him to, like the beauty of, right, creating community doesn't just mean buying land and starting from scratch. The journey of community creation is accelerated when you land at a place where the people are there and just waiting for this muse to create this social fabric and this community fabric that is a lot of the points that we will be going through in this course on little practices and sample culture creating experiences and just ways to take people that are already there, right? It already avoids the cold start challenge, which is like, how do we get people here? You already have
I'm
the
so
people.
interested in the culture development, even
Mhm.
though my background comes from energy and engineering and buildings and stuff. The cultural development seems so fundamental to how we're going to fill out the space together. I'm
Well,
excited.
so
Yeah.
you can just engineer culture then. Like you'll be you'll be learning some things,
Social
and
engineering.
definitely look forward to the part of the course where we share a little bit about how to like create like community wherever you are. And it's like not putting it off into the future, as some people think is this really far off thing that involves buying land or installing all of these systems. It's like really about the relationships. So excited for your journey there, and hope you can like spread a bunch of seeds and like spark that regenerative spirit in many people in Port Hope. I love the name.
Me too. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to plant these seeds of culture development and regenerative culture everywhere.
Awesome. And Adoni, I see you have a baby in your hands, but I don't know if you want to share what you wrote as well.
Yeah, in my case, it was talking with Sonia and realizing that the goal is to go beyond legal and be able to work around with teams for bigger projects beyond legal, no, and be able to bring not just minimum, like when people talk about compliance is like a big part of sustainability and of businesses. And they always say, well, we're compliant with laws and regulations, no? And that is just one step below a crime, you know? If you're in compliance, you're just one step above being a criminal, you know, in whatever rule or regulation you want. So it's not that far. And as a lawyer, for me, it's been very important to give my clients and the projects in real estate that I work with a new standard that goes beyond it. And that standard to be regenerative gives a way bigger, a way bigger reward, a way bigger value. And that's what I hope to achieve as an agent, to really bring very robust mind shifting tools from the regenerative realm to really break into bigger projects with bigger impact beyond just legal, you know, because legal nowadays is a crime almost. We need to go beyond it.
That's a really interesting way of thinking about it. I hadn't thought about that. And on the flip side as well, I had the opportunity, I was just on a call with somebody from the United Nations in Bonn, and they're working on a really cool project on innovation. And they said that sometimes people think of innovation as technology, but innovation is also new policies, new agreements, new ways of thinking about things. So I think there's also that flip side there as well on how not just think about the legal aspect from when it's already written, but actually helping write something new. But of course, everything outside of legal is also super, super cool. Donna and Oscar, I see you have a lot of things here and we want to jump over just thinking about time. Do you want to give a one sentence what you got so then we can jump forward, each one of you?
Yeah, I want to meet more people that are interested in pushing the regenerative neighborhood movement and share with them everything we've researched for the last couple of years in a concise package so they're empowered to do that.
Love it. What a pitch.
And I have 3 points, but to bottle them up, it's about serving projects perspective and high-level view of what the pieces are currently, and then creating a system to manage them and progress from there, which is usually the missing piece. As I told Andoni, we're losing perspective really quickly when we're working on something every day, and so to have somebody come with a fresh view and also resources and tools to create a system like that is really, really valuable.
Cool. What about you, Nicole?
Mine is compile and create a master list of like 1,000 resources. I just put a number on there. Resources, tools, workshops, like basically the things that make everything so easy, like checklists, templates. Like imagine having to create a business plan, the first business plan in the world, and you have no example of what to think of and what to include, versus like fast forward to today where you can just search and find a bunch of different, examples, templates, get inspiration for how people have formatted it, even aesthetically. I want to get to that level of availability for resources that aid in the creation of regenerative neighborhoods. So we're going. Part of even this process of creating workshops for this course and workshops for some of our consulting is it's fun. It's really fun. I just want to augment that.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for sharing. And I think it's really important because sometimes a lot of these things are in our heads, but the moment we put it down, those things kind of come into real life. So that's really good. And we're going to continue on that and deep dive into it. But before we do, Nicole's going to then showcase to us a little bit more about our consulting phases. So maybe we can see where we want to focus on for the time being. So Nicole, over to you.
Yeah, so this is part of the process that we put, so many tens of hours into just designing these phases and how we walk vision holders through the process of community creation. And our involvement is typically in these 3 phases: and understanding, optimizing, and activating a project. Understanding is like the step 0, where we get to know the project, we understand what stage they're at, what they already have, who the team is, what their potential is, where they score on our different rubrics for regenerative standards, as well as just promise and potential as a project, based on the strength of what they already have, how aligned we feel with the project, how we really want to support. The second phase that we take them into is optimizing. This comes in so many different shapes and forms, whether it's like helping them improve. They might have an existing pitch deck that needs work. They might have like a forming group of people, but they don't know how to organize to come together to get people in real life to something. They might have a physical community and people living on site already, but they need help like improving their organizational chart and their management team, or recruiting new members, or they have no members and they want to recruit at least one person to live with them. That's all part of the optimizing. And then the activating, is bringing in like helping with that reputation and the awareness of the project, like how many people have heard of it, bringing in all the right people, bringing in more people, activating it in the sense of like basically up-leveling a project from whatever current stages it is at. And I would love, even Oscar, I know you're participating as an agent, but like switch out of agent mode, because I would love your thoughts on this as well. Muted.
Okay, yes. So right to the bottom left of this, to right, one of my big missions in this organization is to express what we do clearly. And this is one of the most important things you can do as an agent when you are talking to vision holders or any stakeholder, anyone involved in the space that you are working with, consulting, to explain to them what our goals are as a team, right? I always love this Simon Sinek video. Maybe we'll show it on the next course of like, start with why, explain the how, and then get to the what you do. So this one pager, we put a lot of thought into, from a really complex, like multi-slide presentation to this one pager, right? The big why for us as an agent is to guide their regenerative neighborhood to success. And success is different for everybody. So we left that word, as broad as it seems, a general frame, like reference point for helping the people accomplish what they want at their community. That's our big why, to help them succeed. The how we do it is by integrating verified best practices, right? How we were talking, Michael, that by looking at things that different communities have done to create that social fabric, copying and pasting at the location you're at and doing a little bit of remixing is usually one of the best ways to do it. And this really speed tracks the process without having to invent it from scratch. And the three things Nicole was just sharing about, first, we understand. Just like in permaculture, we observe, we hear, and we feel what's going on there. Those three steps include checking out their strategy, understanding how they're operating, and then understanding how they are communicating what they do. In cycle 2 is optimizing. In the optimizing step, we essentially follow the template of the Alchemy guide. Nicole, can you scroll up to your 1 through 10 a little bit upright? There you go. Yeah. Right. And so these are the steps of the optimizing phase. The ideation of the project, honing the vision, recruiting the members, and aligning with the agreements. Then the design of the community. What are we going to do there with a business model? How are we going to design our community to fit that business model, or vice versa? And getting the land we need and the funding that we need through marketing strategy. The build phase, of course, self-explanatory, both infrastructure and our sustainable systems. Sustainable systems being first usually, because they are usually designed based on the lay of the land, which we'll go over in course 7. And then operating and activating. Once the infrastructure is there and some of the people have arrived, how do we enforce this culture? Not enforce, rather, that's not the nicest word. How do we curate this culture? How do we feed this culture for it to grow and take the shape that the community wants? So this is kind of a high level explanation that is really important for people who are having a project of their own. Michael, you know this journey. And like, imagine if someone came to you and described these things to you, you'd be like, wow, this is a godsend. You know, like, these are the steps that can really help me through my process, right? And then at the end is activating. This is all on-site stuff, helping them with project management, helping them bring in the specialists that they need, doing an on-site, like, community activation with people there, and general marketing, storytelling, the key to a lot of this piece.
Right. So typically what we're going to be teaching in this course is more cycle 1 and cycle 2 based. But future agent program opportunities are going to involve on-site project experiences and masterminds. So in these courses, like, it's mostly like theoretical, remote, teaching people the technical and consulting on the technical side of things, and being able to outsource anything you don't know as a consultant to people in the collective or people that you know of that you meet that are skilled service providers. So we're going to be focusing on understanding, learning how to understand and optimize the project. Pretty much that is most of assessing steps 1 through 9 in the community creation phases and steps of the guide. And then 9 and 10 are activate community culture and create and manage holistic community ecosystems. So that is when we're going to dive into phase 3. So if we haven't shown you this to you guys before, here it is now. These are the 10 steps of the Community Alchemy Guide. This is basically our playbook for creating regenerative neighborhoods. We've done a lot of work to assess kind of some linearity to this, obviously, like starting from nothing, just an idea, all the way to having a physical project with people that you just need to refine the processes so that it continues to maintain itself into the long term. Sometimes people do like go 1 to 10. Often it sort of happens in a non-linear way where someone gets land and they have a vague idea and they didn't really spend a whole lot of time clarifying their why and their big why. So we have built this process in a way that is, logically starting from, nothing to step 10, but we've also made this process so that you can plug into wherever step you are at now, while also benefiting from revisiting the steps and going through those, even if a vision holder that you're consulting already has a project and already has people living on site. It doesn't mean they couldn't benefit from revisiting the charter or the manifesto or the culture canvas that is in step 1, to like really boil down like, oh, why am I creating this community? Oh, I don't actually want a bunch of, artsy volunteers that aren't going to contribute to like a culture of high productivity and creation and innovation. So you have to change a little bit. Maybe your process is about how they invite people into the community. So it's all tied in. We showed you the Community Alchemy Guide in the last session, but here are the steps distilled, taken out, extracted, and put here. And then we divide these steps into the phases of ideation, design, building, and operating/activating. Those go hand in hand. So yeah, I want to open it up to any questions about the consulting phases or the community creation phases. If you have any curiosities about how we've applied this in real life, or how you might see this true for yourself in your own experience with communities. And if you don't have any questions, I would actually move to have the bio break now. Then like do a little bathroom, do a little movement. I'll put some music on, we can stretch a little bit, and then dive into the case study.
I have a quick comment, and I'd love to
Yes.
dive into music time together as well.
Following the comment.
Yeah, well, with my experience with my wife when we got land and like just jumped in and started like putting stuff together, was that we found the challenge in like identifying and finding and harnessing the people that fit the feel, the vibe that resonated with us and nourished us and we wanted to be around, and that understood what we were doing and why we were doing it. So people that aligned with that vibe and that vision is, so important. And if you don't have that, then you're just like, you don't really want to be around those people. Then there's
Totally.
nowhere else to go with them. And then you're still stuck alone, right? And it's like any product is way more to do. There's way more to do than any individual or even a pair can do themselves. So yeah, I'm just that piece is very important to know, like who your ideal people are and how to
Totally.
reach them, how to get your message to them.
Yeah, and I'm actually really curious to hear more about how that process has been for you, because we've interviewed so many people building community and worked with so many people who already have beautiful physical places that are just waiting for people to come live. And their number one struggle that people have is getting other people to like buy in, be on board, be willing to like move and show up and live and share community life with. And part of one way to kind of avoid being stuck in that trap, you're like, well, I have this land now, or I'm kind of tied to this project that I invested in, is to start with the people. That's why we typically recommend the community-led approach. because then you aren't so tied to location. If you, for example, were in Canada and moved even just a city over, and because your people were there, it offers you more flexibility. But we are going to dive into, since you guys already have land, how to pursue like getting people excited about your project and finding those aligned people, because there are super like rare gems to find the people that like really feel like family that you want to be around and share your life with. So we have strategies for that, and we can share, you know, case studies when it comes to recruit your ideal members. That's why we put it like so soon, because then other people make it more possible for sure. And remind you that like, oh, okay, I'm not alone. We can build community together.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, I just want to reiterate why that's right at the beginning is like so potently true. Yeah, that piece needs to be at the beginning. So well placed.
Totally. Well, I encourage you to stretch and move, and I'll put a song on and to have a little bio break.
All right, I see Mike's back, and Donnie will probably be a minute or two, so we'll just check in. Just so we think
Excited
about.
right now?
Sorry?
I'm so excited right now.
We're all excited.
Yay.
Yeah. I just checked in with my wife and we're like, oh my God, this is so applicable to the project we're going into today, and it just feels so aligned.
Oh yeah.
Are you visiting a project today, or what's up? What are your plans for today?
We have a second meeting with the owner of a wellness center in the middle of Port Hope. And they've just expanded the physical space to have like a commercial kitchen and like almost a theater center within it. So it's like all these physical wellness and yoga, and it's moving into arts and entertainment, which is where my wife is specialized in. And I'm so excited. We're going to be activating community vortex here in Port Hope, and
Dude,
it's so right
that's gonna
for
be the community clubhouse for the city, for the
Yeah.
town. You
Yeah,
guys will, like, to just start hosting meetups, start hosting gatherings there for like any niche, all niches that you can. Just, I'm excited to talk to you more about it and ideate. Like I was sharing with Michael on our breakout group that our time in Berlin really inspired me for the power behind turning any city or town or populated area into a transition town. That this is what the movement really needs, right? It's really challenging to get people to leave their life and move 30 minutes, an hour, or multiple hours off site, away from the city. But turning a place into like a taste test of what it feels like to move off site, off grid, and live somewhere is, again, this transition town model that is really, really what this movement, in my opinion, calls for mass migration. So, dude, you are in the right place, bro. Your guides are on point.
Yeah, I think people need to feel the regenerative possibility in a social sphere to be able
Yes.
to connect with a vision that's so far from where they are already,
Right.
right?
Definitely.
And even inspiring and attracting and like converting people to like to your mission. That's like a beautiful funnel for you to attract the people that will be your tribe.
Yeah, you want to feel alive, right? Feel alive with us.
And that's why I joined in, because I like the idea of regenerative neighborhood. The goal is that eco village, but the neighborhood is so easy to put into people's mind. Everybody gets what that's all about and what we should be living in. We distance ourselves as well.
I think so. I think people connect with that craving, and I'm inspired by your journey too, Layla. I'd love to connect over what you do.
Let's do it for sure.
Yeah.
And just thinking about time as well, because we want to show you all some good things. And Donnie's back. He knew exactly the time that we were aiming for. So perfect. So I'm going to hand it over to Nicole to show us another case study. And then we'll jump into how would we make that a reality. So over to you, Nicole.
Yeah, so we want to show you a lot of real world examples, right? And the first couple of projects will be focused on ones that we've consulted and worked with directly, and then we'll evolve into analyzing, some of the longest lasting projects like this. But this second one is a project that we lived at for like 4 months this past year, starting in like right after this, like right on April 16th, we jumped in. We were invited to come, live, and activate because the community was struggling for various reasons. Michael got to be there. Him and his partner, his now wife, got to kind of tour the grounds. It's a community built around a cenote in the Tulum jungle. Despite like all the other community projects that are like building and hoping to have people, this is the one that is actually functioning. It has community dinners, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It has shared activities. It typically has a good number of people at any given time staying on site. So what is working right now for them is that they acquired, in the time that we were living there, acquired a rent to own agreement rather than just renting. So they have a more secure financial agreement to eventually own what is like $1 million property, so that they can feel like we're grounded here. It's honestly, as the only functioning community, it's the place where people can actually come and like live and stay and experience what I feel like is community, which is sharing space, sharing meals, and bonding on a deeper level, because you kind of have to when you're in the jungle and you see the people every day. The thing that's really working for them that I think has enabled it to last even like past like really struggling hard times and COVID and all of the other things, was that they have a regular income from their hospitality rentals. And surprisingly, the hospitality rentals are really cheap. The whole community is built with these glamping tents designed by the owner, everything from like really low scale to like co.create houses with tents and quite beautiful architecture. So having pretty affordable housing that just about anyone can consistently rent from them has worked in their favor. They have a strong volunteer program. They're always having an influx of people there to volunteer, to make the meals, to clean, and support the hospitality business. So they've subsidized labor in a sense by inviting volunteers in, which is a really common strategy in a lot of communities. They have solar power, groundwater that is sourced, like showers and faucets that source from the groundwater, and they have internet, even being deep in the jungle. Sometimes it wouldn't work, but they did have internet. And so, which is really important. Some communities don't even have self-service. So there's that. But it didn't have self-service because it was so deep in the jungle. And again, it was like actually breaking bread together and gathering around the table and spending dinners together, which is a super bonding thing. But what didn't work, and what we identified both before we came and as we were on site, is that the high turnover of people aren't that don't stay there long term, like the volunteers. They found it hard to plug in and find meaning and value and feel valued in the exchange. So they would constantly cycle through, and it kind of made it hard to feel like there was a permanent sense of community, and people were just constantly coming and going, and it's like chaotic energy. They weren't really maintaining their sustainable systems as they should. So some of the sustainable systems, like the water filtration system, which was like a filtration that like with a lot of plants that just are meant to naturally filter the gray water, was needed maintenance. Sometimes the solar would go out. They just weren't properly maintaining their sustainable systems at regular intervals. The volunteers were sometimes apathetic, which would kind of contribute to a culture of like not really wanting to get things done, or just it was maybe there was, even if there were hardworking people, if there was one person that was kind of like, I don't really feel like it, or I'm not respected enough and I don't have to do that. It would kind of spread in the culture of like not really being doing bare minimum, if anything. and that was kind of an issue. There's obviously a clear power dynamic between the only remaining founder of the project. All the other founders had left, and everyone else who was either a volunteer or a guest or like a short-term community member and friend that's just visiting the community, but only temporarily. And then finally, the common areas were not being taken care of and things were getting kind of musty. One way we solved that while we were there is we hosted like blitzes. One of Oscar's ideas, like, let's just do like 30 minutes, everybody pitches in, let's get this place clean. And it's kind of part of like ways that you can structurally add behavioral changes in a culture that isn't already naturally overachieving or just like really keeping things in excellent condition. So we're gonna do the same thing where we do an analysis on why we think this community has been able to last. It's been around for 5 years, and I think Tulum has been such a blossoming place for community in that time. And yeah, let's do like 3-5 minutes of just dragging sticky notes over and giving some guesses as to why we think this community was successful and able to last and have permanent community members.
Sorry, what was the prompt?
Just breaking down factors that you think helped make Eke Shell successful. Meaning they were able to host people and actually be a community and have people.
And the sticky notes are here.
You guys
already.
arrived.
Ding, ding, ding. No, I wasn't fishing for that answer. And feel free to ask any clarifying questions about the community that you're wondering about.
I'm interested in how they split that income. I know that's a very more technical, but do they have something like orchestrated on how that is done?
Well, so the income mostly goes to the founder who built the tents. And then occasionally it's like redistributed to pay for community things such as the fridge, like the communal fridges, or fixing the solar batteries, or installing new internet. So there's like the double-edged sword of like he gets the income, but he's also responsible for all of the expenses.
Right. Okay. Interesting way to do it.
Kind of the only way to do it if everyone's temporary. but
Yeah.
Yep.
What does somebody mean by congruent concept? I don't know, Antonio, if that was yours.
Yeah, that's mine. And what I mean is that they've marketed or presented themselves as a very holistic, sustainable or natural project. The vision around it has always been kind of from that, and they've kept it to be very congruent by doing like minimal footprint type of architecture with the tents, with the co.create, trying to keep the cenote alive, trying to bring like an organic community together. And I think that that's very congruent in what they said they would be doing and the people that were promoting it with what it actually is turning out to be and be known for.
Awesome,
Yeah,
thanks.
like
Hadn't thought about that tent concept from a sustainability perspective. That is super interesting. That is the minimum, right?
Yeah, like fabric is often overlooked as like a sustainable option. But when it's treated in a sustainable way, it's quite durable, and it's like really minimal cost, and like minimal material.
Cool.
And some of these can even be broken down, so it's like designed to be a bit more nomadic, but some of them are like permanent, built on platforms, but even the platforms can be disassembled and the tents can be taken down. The co.create structures can't, but that's fine.
Cool. I think we got some, Nicole.
Yeah, so let's see. I am going to kind of ask the question then. Let me see. Stick notes. All
The place
right.
was almost like a pop-up village.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, they're sort of why we call them more like a regenerative neighborhood experience, because you can come and experience community feeling, and you know there's like one family that is you know permanent residents, and I think the culture comes from more like the Rainbow Tribe people, where they were often nomadic, like the founders were originally very nomadic themselves. So they kind of are used to people coming and going. But I think like the culture is like just more of like people are there. Some people hold the space, but there's not enough space holders to really make it feel like a cohesive community experience.
Yeah, I'm happy you bring this term up, Nicole. It's a good one to clearly define and help the vision holders that we work with understand what are the two kind of directions that a land project can turn into. For some, they want to have land where people purchase homes, build homes, and live long term or permanently. This is a regenerative neighborhood. In other situations that are similar but very different in the way that you set up structures and programming and everything, is a regenerative neighborhood experience. And this is a place where you can go and rent or visit for a short amount of time, also a middle amount of time. You can rent for a few months or a few years, but you don't really have the option necessarily to purchase land or rights to land and build your home to live permanently. Interestingly enough, Eggshell, with its process to rent to own, the long-term vision is creating lots that community owners can come in and live on permanently. So they're kind of in this transition as well. But identifying that clear split in regenerative neighborhood permanent or regenerative neighborhood experience, which is short term and visiting, is a really key step in the journey of assessing a project.
And something that I want to add to that is it doesn't have to be either or. Actually, what we recommend for projects is to be both. So to have permanent spaces for people to live long-term or permanently, as well as the regenerative neighborhood experience where people can come. And something that Oscar brought up was a transition town. I think this is a really important piece for people to be able to experience community before they make a decision, take the leap to move their long term, which can be a little bit of a different lifestyle that we're used to. So actually encouraging both neighborhood and the experience.
Yeah, totally. I actually added that as one of the success reasons for success is that this space has a thriving business model, and that business model is hospitality, which in projects we've seen really succeed. The hospitality model, just like Ecomal, Eekshell as well, has short-term space that allows for a rotating door, and many people get to know the property and the space, and allows you to get to know different demographics and different kinds of people to find the best fit once you decide to or have the opportunity as a landowner to offer long-term or permanent places for community members. So yeah, being both is ideal.
Right, and the thing about Eggshell, although ostensibly, technically, someone could live long term in some of the like spaces that they have, they're like rather comfortable. There's no clear process for people to do that and feel like they have a sense of security in staying long term. Like there's no real offer around that. It's more so hospitality prices or work exchange volunteers. The recommended is to have both hospitality short-term stays with like clear section designated in the plan for permanent housing, and having a range of affordability and types of hospitality and of permanent housing so that you can attract people and not necessarily have a paywall that is keeping you from having members. So get people living there on site quicker is more doable when you have more flexible accommodation and hospitality options. So I'm going to start a very quick like lightning voting session on which session of the guide you think they need help with. So you're just going to click on these sticky notes and you can add which one. Like I think they need help with one, and you can reference to the side on the phases just to double check, like hone your community vision, recruit your ideal members, align with group agreements and governance. Think about if you were a consultant, which of these steps, which of the 10 steps would you recommend that they revisit in order to be a bit more successful, because they already have land, housing, people, even notoriety, and sustainable systems. They just need to optimize what they already have and activate it a little bit more. So I would say don't vote for more than 3, but just click on the sticky note that you think they need help with the most.
Can you hold the screen on the steps of the phase?
Yes.
Community phases? And then we
Yes.
can vote?
Yes, that's a great idea.
Make sure you click I'm done after you click on the sticky note.
All right, so I think we're all done. I see I think Sonia and Oscar need to click I'm done, but I'm just gonna end it for everyone. Because 5 out of 6 people have voted. Woo! Everyone has voted. Okay, let's see the results. All right, so yes, 4 votes for step 2, recruit your community members. Next, highest is step 7, master planning your sustainable systems and community layout. And in 3rd place is step 6, strategize your marketing and funding. So who wants to like explain some of their answers?
I'm happy to share.
Anthony, Michael, Sonia. Sonia said,
Yeah.
Anthony's got your hand up. Okay, cool.
I'll start. So one of the things I obviously see a lot of missing parts for this to be a super successful community, because it's not just successful in traditional terms, but like regeneratively successful. So like I see the potential in it. And the one thing from what you mentioned that really stood out for me, coming from a real estate law perspective, is the fact that they just recently, as you put it in the what is working with it, that they renting to own agreement. So obviously, when you have no control or no ownership over the land where you're putting a project forward, it's hard to even develop anything from it. You know, you can have great plans, you can have good ideas, you can even have great team members, but if you don't have the legal certainty to offer that product, to create something that you can receive another person in as a short-term or as a long-term stay, it's very hard for the rest to transition. And it comes to me as a very like important thing to keep in mind, that the single thing that most entrepreneurs will tell you what they would have done different when they started their business is that they would have owned the land, or they would have owned the properties where they were developing their business from. And it's really that relevant, you know? If you have that, I think it's easier for them to put out proposals that can be more attractive, to find people that will have more trust in the project, for you know, it to actually be an interesting thing for everybody. So I just want to like, it's one of the few things people really recognize, and it really can clog a project up, which is not having clear ownership of the land.
Yes, correct. So being able to offer now people a chance at ownership, besides just one of the original founders who pays the rent, who's kind of like the leader in a sense, being able to offer other people to step in on a deep ownership level is one way to invite people who are serious about being long-term residents, and who will be not just volunteers or not just travelers, but people who can also serve to hold the torch. In essence, we see some issues with leadership in many different community projects, because always having that on your shoulders is quite a bit. It can be emotionally, mentally, financially draining, and we typically recommend having a larger, more diverse founding team, just to have the flexibility to step away when you need it and when life happens. But totally, like now that they're switching into that model, they have more of an opportunity. Like while we were there, they were doing that, and we were also like kind of helping them see how they could tokenize the different lots that they were going to do. And so that sort of falls into revisiting the master plan, and that they know they have a really for example, although around the cenote is where most of the accommodations are, and that's like the hospitality zone. Another tip we typically recommend is to create a bit of a membrane and a barrier, like separate where like all the activity and all the hospitality and all of the strangers, so to speak, to permanent community members, where permanent community members can retreat a little bit and have some privacy and have, you know, their own space, while still like being able to go and participate in the active community spaces. So that falls into step 7, master planning. Michael.
Yes, I think, yeah, security for the permanency is required, right? It sounds like the success of the community is requiring people to land there and stay there. So just everything what Denis was saying and what you guys are talking about, master planning the layout and also the governance structure to give people security for that they can buy in and or they can land there themselves. I think a lot of people find security in ownership, but I'm sure there's like legal ownership of plots of land. But I'm sure and I'm interested in the other ways that that sort of feeling of ownership and belonging and security in a place can be structured into group dynamics. And then finding the right people to recruiting the ideal members. That's important because you want the right people to be permanent there. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I wonder, you know, I didn't vote for this, but I wonder, I'm not clear on what the community vision there was either, so maybe that would be a needful component to getting the right people to stay. But I think mainly it's the governance structure and the agreements for people to stay long term, permanently. Otherwise,
Yeah,
grow.
yeah, I agree. Giving people clear pathways to get involved, and even, I mean, I think the most relevant ones are step 2, step 7, and then steps 9 and 10 kind of go hand in hand in this sense. But really, sometimes you have to be able to attract the quote unquote the right people. You have to revisit step 1, the vision, to understand like what is the purpose of this community, who do I actually want here, but having a more clear and totally in the chat, random thought, I wonder if the volunteers at Eggshell didn't feel valued and were apathetic because they're pretty much working for their own basic utilities, and that is also spot on. There wasn't, I've seen volunteer programs that are much less accommodating. Like, it's insane, first of all, how affordable it is to live there if you're a volunteer. I think you pay like $5 a day for 3 home cooked meals. You like, it can be anywhere from like, you know, $20 to $30 a day to stay in a tent. It's like, it's very, very affordable. I've actually, when I was on my quest visiting different communities, I was paying for my accommodation. I just got like a discount on my accommodation, and I was also required to spend money at the community on different workshops for my own personal growth. But the experience was incredible. The community was very vibrant, and most of the volunteers were really happy to do that. So there is a way to incorporate work exchange and like sweat equity in this sense, without extorting people essentially for their labor. So that is something like somewhat of a pothole to avoid. So let's move on to the next section, just because we have a bit to cover when it comes to just briefing you on the types, the objectives we have for the course in each of the topics. So thanks everyone for voting, and it's so interesting to see because you can make an argument for any of the steps. So in this course, we have basically number 1 objectives for each of the steps of the guide for you to be able to do. We said this, I think, in the first session, but we want to reiterate, this is not at all like you could spend years on the science and art of building community, and especially like redesigning society at local scale. It's land development, it's real estate, it's sustainable technology, it's, you know, people and marketing and getting everybody excited about your community. And it typically takes like most projects like 10 years before they hit success. Part of what we do is just accelerating that success by helping them navigate these different things, and knowing which of the options out there are best for them. So in this time, we hope that in each of these sections, you'll be able to do this one thing, if nothing else. And we'll be providing resources for you to be able to do that. So step one, being able to guide people to figure out their community vision with basic ideation workshops and exercises that give them clarity on their vision. If you have a community land project, this can also work for you, but you'll have this toolkit of workshops and ideation exercises that you can use when you're consulting people that are like, I have an idea, and I want to, you know, I have this dream, and you start there. In section 2 for recruiting ideal members, you'll have access to examples of onboarding processes, as well as a simple template to help people build their own onboarding process with some key factors to decide. So we'll be going through a template, and we'll be just making sure that you're familiar with the process that we advise people to use, but also other processes from finding co-founders to inviting people to live on site. In step 3, with group agreements and governance, you'll be able to just high level explain the different governance models, help them know their options, and help them pick the best one that's most appropriate for their community. In step 4, you're just going to be provided the tools and templates that accelerate a vision holder to create the necessary documentation, which is examples and templates, and just being able to explain the different parts of these templates and understand why they are important, and even have a couple tips around how to fill them out when guiding someone through the creation of these templates. Step 5, you'll be able to be intimately familiar with all of the major land ownership models, which Antonio, like this, is very legal, and help pick the best one for that particular community. So this is just kind of like a chart, a comparison chart of like pros and cons, being familiar with all of the options out there. And that'll be the same for group agreements and governments. Just have a chart and be able to know all of the options, their pros and cons at a holistic level. Step 6, you'll be able to know, we'll look at what strategies have helped other communities succeed, and we'll recommend our top 3 and then some other strategies that help market a community most effectively. Step 7, you'll know all of the components that go into a master plan, be able to explain why it is important, and also be able to recommend people who can help vision holders do that for their land with a checklist of what needs to get done. 8, you'll be able to talk to them confidently about how they can build their physical infrastructure, not only with a variety of climate appropriate methods that you can recommend, but also knowing where to source service providers that will help them with those particular building techniques, and different things, ways of building creatively, ways to creatively source the funding of building, and how to basically like redevelop, meaning reclaim existing infrastructure. So those will be some of the topics that we'll cover in step 8. Step 9, all about activating community culture. So you'll know our recipe for community activation and be able to look at the case studies that have worked and be able to recommend strategies and reference these case studies. We'll even brainstorm some of our own ideas for how to activate community culture on the spot. And then step 10, you'll just know the major components of operating and managing a community long-term. This is where we start to get into like organizational charts. We often say like running a community is kind of like running a business, but that business happens to be your family. So basically optimizing it's an organization. You are an organization, optimizing the organization with human-centered, heart-driven methods, but also not sacrificing the relationships with the people to be able to help the community thrive long-term. Michael, question, comment?
I love you guys.
Joke.
It just I just had a comment. It seems to me that step 9, activate community culture, was also a strong strategy to recruiting your ideal members.
Yes,
Do you agree?
I agree.
So it's interesting that there are like, not that it's in the wrong place, but it's interesting that they're on opposite ends of the check or step list. And
Well, so
but it
the
seems like it could kind of be like cyclical.
it's iterative. It's totally cyclical. It's like
Yeah.
nature. It's like you could even get to step 10 and then start over at step 1 and like be refining your vision even more and go through it again. It's not like an end all process. And I like that observation because typically in step 2, it's mostly about finding like the diehards, the people who are willing to invest capital, who are willing to move there even when no one else is there. Like basically the people who are most committed to the vision to like really help kickstart it. But step 9 is kind of about activating community culture, also branches into local relationships, building partnerships with local orgs, other communities in your area, and inviting in what we call like more of a consumer type who might just stay at your community, attend a couple events, and then you never see them again. But you know, their stay there helped finance another season at your community. So that's part of activating community culture, and is that still bringing in aligned people, but once you're like established and want to build like notoriety and continue to fund yourself. So interesting observation. So we're going to maybe, I know, Lila, I didn't get a chance to respond to you in the chat. We are going to probably do tribes, a demo of tribes on another day, because we want to link that into the neighborhood onboarding process, and the form is still being updated on our platform. But we do want to start this now, and then maybe give you guys some time to work on this over the weekend until the next session, the personal development plan to really get clear on your goals as an agent for this course. So Lila's leading that part.
Very good. So yeah, so I'm a big fan of having kind of a personal development plan. What are you trying to achieve externally, right? But what are you yourself going to do to be able to achieve the goals that we talked about at the beginning? So here are just a couple of different steps. Personal development plans can get huge, but I thought that this would already help you give a little bit direction of what you're looking for in these next 6 weeks. And that can change as you learn more about each step. But what I thought would be useful for today is for you to put your name on here so we can also push through some accountability. Choose one of the steps or multiple steps that you think you really want to develop, that maybe is not your strongest suit and you want to work on that one more specifically. What are maybe some key points you have learned that have been maybe aha moments for you, or anything that you're already, oh, this is another reason why I want to jump in there. Think about maybe how your current skills already give you a leg up on that one, even if it is a step that you want to develop. Everybody has multiple kind of cross-functional skills. What already gives you a little head up that you're not starting with a blank page? And then thinking about the goals that we were talking, or intentions that we were talking about before, it's really thinking about, okay, what type of SMART goal can I work on over the next 6 weeks to actually achieve that? And SMART goals, and I'm going to put a little link to that, basically means that it's very specific, it's measurable, so that's the M, it's achievable, so that's the A, it's relatable, so that's the R, it actually means something to what you're doing in your life, and there's a time dimension to it. So it can be the next 6 weeks, it can be in a month, it can be in a year, but just helping you really get really specific with what you're trying to achieve. And my favorite one, which I always leave for last, what can you do by next Friday or next Thursday when we meet again? So you can say, actually, I've taken a little baby step that's going to actually help me climb that mountain that is my biggest goal. So we have only about kind of 5 minutes left. So what we're going to do is give this to you as homework, take it away. People need a lot of time to just think. You need to kind of look over the other side of the map of the mural as well to see which step means what. But I think this already gives you a good idea to start planning out what you want to achieve within this course, and also what this course will help you achieve once it's done as well. So we'll leave that there, and you can come back to it. You have access to Miro at all times. So make sure that if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we're going to come back to this throughout the course, of course. And with only kind of 5 minutes left, what I always like to do, and I'll hand it to Nicole in a second to do a wrap up, but is there kind of a one big kind of idea that sprout out, something that really made you go, aha, that you really liked about this session today? To me, it was really thinking about the different income models and thinking about the importance of that when you're building something. So that's something that I fear a lot when it comes to these projects, and it's really interesting to see how that's been implemented. So I'll definitely dive into that one. And Sonia, you're next on my screen. I wonder if you had a little aha moment that you want to share with everyone.
Can you repeat, Laila? Sorry, it's gotten a little bit louder in here.
No problem. Have you had any aha moments or insights from today's session that you want to share?
Yes, definitely appreciate and I'm impressed with all of you, especially after the conversation with Andoni, seeing how much you recognize that the holistic approach to the whole process is important, which I think is a big win, and is usually the missing piece in the community creation process. So I would say that. And I really like the exercises of looking into specific cases of a neighborhood, and then recognizing what is a win and what is a pain point and what can be improved based on what we've done so far, and then seeing the insights of different people that either participated in that project, which some of you did, and then some of you didn't, and so being really on point and finding solutions on how to improve that, and which steps of the journey would need a little bit more love to make the project better. So yeah.
Cool. Who do you pitch it to?
To Michael.
Thank you, Sonia. My aha moment. I think it's just how applicable this is in established infrastructure settings like a town. Like, my aha moment is this could be regenerative culture seed placed in such a place, placed anywhere where there are people. And it can branch out, the regeneration can branch out into different aspects of life. You know, it can start socially and become, you know, agriculturally, it can become, you know, in the building and the infrastructure and resource use. It can go in other directions, but it can seed from any one place. And I actually, yeah, aha to me is, it feels like the social seed is the most powerful one, because it introduces a felt sense, an experience for the individual of what's possible.
Wow, yeah, beautifully said. I want to see this blossom in urban spaces and existing infrastructure more as well.
Cool. Who do you pitch it to, Michael?
Who hasn't gone yet? Oscar, I'm calling you forward, brother.
Hey guys, so I even made a little arrow on mine. Inspired, my aha moment was the universe speaking directly for my excitement of the transition town journey. Michael, I'm excited to hear that update of your journey and to hear the follow-up with the community space you're meeting with. I'm excited to start testing and seeing the engagement from this transition town that you're going to be forming in the next few weeks and months, to piece together some ideas for what catches there, and to also start sharing pilots of physical cities and towns that are already thriving and have people, and seeing how we can create that social community fabric.
Will you pass it on to?
And I pass it to Ando.
Hey, well, you know, I was just so hard to really think of a aha moment that has gone. You know, it's been constant new things that I have in mind, but the most one I would say has to be with realizing the community element of it and the people element of it. So I would definitely go like with step number 2, because I think that as they say, you live and die by your founders. So to me, it's very relevant how, as advisors or as agents, we come to connect with these people that are the life spring for the project, you know, and how to make them stronger to make the project be successful. So yeah, that's kind of something that has stood out, and also how this can be an attractor for people and what type of people you want to have as a project, because sometimes when you don't have that end customer in mind, or end user in mind, it's very easy to get lost in the frustrations of it all. And I don't know, like some of the key points learned, everything is valuable, but the steps of actually the framework itself, you know, putting some logic to it, of how it goes from ideation to setup to all the way into proper building it. And I love the part of building, but it's only like a very hollow part if there's no community to actually keep that place. Like I've seen a lot of resorts and a lot of new regenerative initiatives that focus a lot on the space, but don't really bring the community to occupy it and keep it. So it was really nice to kind of see how they're all interconnected. And I'd love to see, I come from a very consulting background from business, and there's always these metrics and there's always these like ways to rate your client. And I would be very interested in putting all of these steps in a like cartwheel kind of diagram, and you can score certain points according to some test that we might be able to like provide, where you can measure this in a very visual way, like these community tools. And yeah, well, I think that the next action would be to put some of this into a practical purpose, like approach it as something that I can start putting wrapping my head around in one of the projects that are closer to heart. But I'll fill this up. Yeah. Is that it?
That's it. Thank you all so much for sharing. And Nicole, I haven't forgotten you. What's yours?
Oh, I really liked the idea of when Michael was saying like kind of connecting the dots around how it's cyclical, and how we just constantly need to revisit and revise and like keep community as a living thing, and just like keep doing the process and find new ways to deepen each time and to strengthen, revisit, or even update our original vision in order to adapt and evolve and be a community organism. And I'm excited I have already a little mini like toolkit around like create community wherever you are. So I'll share that with you, Michael. It comes from one of my favorite books around community. And so I'm teaming up with Oscar to create some like tools and activities to like do it where you are now, because that's the most important thing, building relationships with people and building more resilient culture through these different actionable steps that aren't like 30 years in the future of having an off-grid sustainable community, but like, okay, what can we do now with what we have? What can most people do now?
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Love that. Well,
And Lila, can you please clarify the key points learned again in the column in this chart here?
yeah, so what about that specific step that you chose? So for example, you chose step 9 and 1. What have you learned about it today that has been relevant to you? Sounds good. Any other questions on that one before we move forward? Good job, Michael. All right. So we're getting to the end, and what I love most about hosting anything or supporting anything is to getting feedback, especially as we're looking to develop this one. So it would be great. I know we're a little bit over time, but we promise we'll end it in like 5 minutes. It would be great to just bring you all over here to this little feedback session area, and to get 1 or 2 little points for you on what worked, what didn't work, and what do you want more of. And all of those are very relevant, and we use those in different ways as well. So I don't know if you've seen, the team has already put together what worked to get more people to jump in. So that really helps us advertise and use that as our own marketing for the course. What didn't work already helps us improve for sessions starting next week, where we're really going to start diving into the actionable steps of the process. And what we want more of course, is also embedding that throughout the course. So there's a lot more juicy things coming up, and all feedback is super, super welcome. So feel free to either jump that, put that into these sticky notes, or to send us little information or little notes if you think that would be best as well. All good. And then over to Oscar.
Yes, and I just wanted to mention that while we are here in Honduras at this pop-up city experience at Prospera, a physical community, we will be going through the live consulting process of this project and sharing that journey with you guys. We will be going textbook, step 1, step 2 through step 10, guiding both the vision holding team and the 200 participants of this pop-up city through this experience of asking themselves these questions and walking them through the resources that we've been gathering of how to create their best case long-term community plan. So this will be a live, both theoretical through the course and a practical application of this pop-up city here in Honduras.
Woo, all live in real time. In Brazil, we have a saying, if you're really good, you do it live. So amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, just to kind of sum up, I see you guys are still taking notes, so feel free, but I just want to wrap us up, and then I'll hand it over to Nicole. But basically today we talked a little bit more about the goals that you want to achieve, or the intentions. We talked about the consulting phases, so exactly how we build out those 3 steps and what that looks like. We went through the objectives of the consulting. So if nothing else, you will take one big thing out of each one of those steps. And the very important thing, which we're trying to make this course all about, is the case studies. The team have been there, they've done it, and they're bringing it to you so you can understand and maybe even give some suggestions for further projects as well. And the personal development plan becomes a little bit of a homework for next week as well, and for the ongoing project. But I just wanted to thank the team for letting me jump in and for letting me just be part of this, because I'm learning along with you and just giving little inputs as I go. And yeah, Nicole, over to you to close us off.
You're amazing, Lila. Thank you for everything. Thank you guys for showing up today and giving your energy. We did this like practice at the end of some of our calls where it's just like, we all rub our hands together, like we're like trying to stay warm. We're just like, and everybody does it, and we all just like energy, and then we send energy to each other. Thank you. Big hugs and mad love. I know it's virtual. We try to make it as interactive and as fun as possible. We're here for you. If you have any questions throughout the entire program, even if it's like 1 a.m., send it to us or post it on the hotline or post it in the Telegram chat, because we're here for that.
Sweet. All right, guys. Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining. I'm inspired, Anom, by your posts in the chat here. I would love to make a spot on the Miro board where we share individuals like long-term goals, maybe like some like little card system where it's like long-term goal and then things that they've picked up throughout the course that inspire them or questions they have that can help accomplish that long-term goal, right? Like Anom in there writing about her rent-to-own model and self-sufficiency in this, maybe like a challenges solutions column or something, long-term goal challenges solutions that they've discovered, so we can all see each other and maybe even support each other and share ideas with each other would be cool on the board somewhere.
And I will also just put in my information contact there. So then that makes it really easy for us to connect with each other. So I'll just put it next to my name, Michael, and for anybody else that wants to tune in. And I will also just put in my Instagram and email. So feel free to connect. Thank you, everyone. All right, so I think I'm going to stop sharing right now, making sure that we stop recording as well, Nicole, and we'll see you all next Tuesday.
Oh yeah, quick screen share. What's up? Screen share.
Oh, now it's off the record discussion. Unfiltered.
That's the best.